That glowing screen in the middle of a field. That palace downtown where a ticket cost a quarter. That whole way of spending an evening that has simply vanished. There was an entire map of places every American went in the 1950s. You could drive to them, walk to them, meet your friends at them. And most of them are gone, torn down, paved over, or standing empty. In a few minutes, you are going to hear about the place your whole family drove to on a summer night in their pajamas. The store that sold everything, where you could actually buy a house out of a book. And the one gathering spot that held every small town in America together, that almost none exist anymore. 50 vanished places fill this video. These are the ones that make people say, "I forgot that was ever a thing." All of them real. All of them packed with Americans. Every week. If you grew up in the 1950s, you did not just see these places. You went to every single one of them. Subscribe before we start. And stay to the end, because the last one is the place people say they would give anything to walk into just one more time. On a warm summer night, the whole family piled into the car, often already in their pajamas, and drove to a giant screen standing in the middle of a field. You parked in rows, hooked a heavy metal speaker onto your rolled-down window, and watched a movie under the open sky. The little kids fell asleep in the back seat. The teenagers were in the back row for reasons that had nothing to do with the film. There was a playground under the screen where children ran wild before the show, and a snack bar that ran a countdown cartoon telling you how many minutes until showtime. Here is how big this was. At its peak, around 1958, America had more than 4,000 drive-in theaters. It was not a novelty. It was how a family went to the movies, because you did not need a babysitter and you did not need to dress up. You just drove in. Television kept people home. Then, the land the drive-ins sat on, big open lots near growing towns, became far too valuable to show one movie a night. Developers bought them up, and the screens came down by the hundreds. A few dozen still flicker on summer nights. The rest are shopping centers now. The next place sold everything under one roof, and you could order almost anything from it. Downtown, the great department store was not just a shop. It was an event, a destination, a place you dressed up to visit. Stores like Sears, Montgomery Ward, and the grand local department store had everything across floor after floor, an elevator operator calling out each one, a lunch counter, and at Christmas a window display that families drove into the city just to see. You did not run in for one thing. You spent the day. And here is the part almost nobody believes. For decades, you could buy an entire house out of the Sears catalog. They shipped it to you in thousands of numbered pieces on a rail car, with a book of instructions, and you or your neighbors built it. Tens of thousands of these mail-order homes were sold, and many are still standing in American towns today, lived in by people who have no idea their house arrived in the mail. The shopping mall pulled the stores out of downtown. Then the big discount chains undercut them, and finally the internet finished the job. Sears, once the largest retailer on earth, collapsed to almost nothing. The grand downtown department store, with its window displays and its lunch counter, is nearly extinct. The next place is where the whole town went on a Friday night. Every town had one. The soda fountain, the malt shop, the corner drugstore counter where the teenagers gathered. It was inside the pharmacy, which makes no sense now and made perfect sense then. Chrome stools that spun, a marble counter, a soda jerk in a paper hat who could pull a cherry Coke or build a banana split in front of you. A jukebox in the corner. This was where kids went after school and after the game, where a boy took a girl when he had almost no money, one malted, 2 straws. Here is the small, vanished detail. The person behind the counter was called a soda jerk, named for the jerking motion of pulling the tap handle for the fizzy water. It was a real job that a teenager could have, and being a good one made you a small local celebrity. Because you controlled the jukebox and the milkshakes, which is to say you controlled the whole scene. The fast food drive-thru beat it on speed. The pharmacy dropped the fountain to sell more medicine. The chrome stools were torn out one town at a time through the 1960s and 70s, and the after-school gathering spot for a whole generation quietly closed. Before we go on, tell me in the comments, did your town have a malt shop or a soda fountain? What did you order? I read every single one. On Main Street stood the Five and Dime, the store where the whole idea was that nothing cost more than a nickel or a dime. Woolworths, Kresge's, Ben Franklin. You could walk every aisle and touch everything. There were bins of small toys and trinkets a child could actually afford. There was a lunch counter in the back, a pet section with parakeets and goldfish, and a smell of popcorn and candy near the door. It was the first place most American children ever spent money that was their own. And here is a piece of history that changed the country. In 1960, at a Woolworth's lunch counter in Greensboro, North Carolina, 4 young men sat down and refused to leave when they were denied service. That single act at a Five and Dime counter helped spark the sit-in movement across the American South. An ordinary dime store lunch counter became a turning point in history. The discount giants priced them out. Woolworths closed its very last stores in 1997 after 118 years. The buildings still stand on main streets all over the country, and most of them are empty, with the faded ghost of the old name still above the door. The next place got the whole country out of the house on a Saturday. Before the multiplex, there was the Movie Palace, a single enormous screen in a building downtown that was built to look like a temple. These were grand places with velvet seats, a balcony, gold trim, a ceiling painted like the night sky, and a marquee out front with the title spelled in letters slotted in by hand. The whole town went to the same picture. So on Monday, everyone was talking about the same thing. A ticket cost $0.25. An usher in a uniform walked you to your seat with a flashlight. Here is what made it special. It was not just a place to see a film. It was the most glamorous building most people in a small town would ever set foot in, a little bit of Hollywood on their own main street, open to anyone with a quarter. For a couple of hours you sat in a palace. The multiplex out by the highway, with more screens and more parking, drained them. Television kept people home. The grand single screens went dark, were chopped into smaller rooms, or were torn down, and the palace where a whole town gathered in the dark became a memory. The next place was where a whole community came together, and it was the true heart of the town. The whole town had a center, a main street with a town square, and it was where life actually happened. There was a bandstand in the park where a brass band played on summer evenings, and whole families brought blankets. There was a general store where you could buy anything and where the men sat around the stove and argued. There were sidewalks full of people who all knew each other, benches where the old-timers held court, and a Saturday night when everyone, and I mean everyone, came downtown to shop, to visit, to see and be seen. Here is the heart of it. There was nowhere else to go, and that was the secret of it. The town center was the only center, so everyone ended up there. And a community formed simply because people kept running into each other in the same few blocks, week after week, year after year. The automobile and the highway pulled everything out to the edge of town. The shopping center, the big box store, and the drive-everywhere suburb emptied the old Main Street. The band stopped playing. The benches emptied, and 1,000 American downtowns went quiet, their storefronts dark, their squares deserted on the Saturday nights that once held the whole town. The last one is the place people miss the most, the one that meant belonging more than anywhere else on this list. And some of the most important places were not businesses at all. They were the front porches and the front stoops where a neighborhood lived its evening life. When it was too hot inside and there was no air conditioning to run to, everyone came out. The grown-ups sat on the porch and watched the street. The kids played in the yards that ran together with no fences. Neighbors walked by and stopped and stayed an hour. You knew every family on the block, whose door was always open, whose kitchen had the good cookies, who would take you in if you got hurt. The whole street was, in a real way, one big loose household. Here is the whole heart of it. The porch faced the street on purpose, because the street was where the life was. Nobody planned these gatherings. They happened because people were simply outside, at the same time, night after night, and that is all a community ever really needs. Air conditioning pulled everyone inside where it was cool. Television gave them a reason to stay. New houses were built with the porch shrunk to a single step and a fence around the back, and the evening life of the neighborhood, the easiest belonging there ever was, quietly went silent. But if you sat on one of those porches on a warm night, with the whole street out and the kids running in the dusk, you remember exactly how it felt, and no one can take that back. The drive-in screen glowing in a field, the great department store you could buy a house from, the malt shop with the spinning stools, the Five and Dime and its history-making lunch counter, the movie palace with the painted ceiling, the main street where the whole town gathered, and the front porch where the neighborhood lived. Every one of it, gone or nearly gone. Some torn down, some paved over, some emptied out by the car, the highway, and the screen. None of it felt special at the time. It was just where you went. It was Friday night. It was the trip downtown. It was the ordinary map of an ordinary life you never thought would disappear. We do not really miss the buildings. We miss the gathering. The whole town in one place. The neighbors on the porch. The feeling that there was somewhere to go where everybody you knew would be. Those places do not come back. But they do not really leave either. They are still here, in a photograph, in a memory, in you. So tell me in the comments, which one of these did you go to? Name it, and one thing you remember. Not the place, the people who were there with you. Subscribe, and we will keep looking back together, because there is a lot more of this country left to remember.